Well, I'm here today with Dave Marr, who fronted a great band called the Starroom Boys. So great, I signed him to a record deal years ago, and now Dave is coming out with a new solo album, and just wanted to spend a little time talking to him. How are you, Dave?
I'm great, Dale. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, tell me a little bit about the new record. Tell me what you've got coming up.
Well, we have been working on this record for a little over a year, and I've finally got it out in limited release. It's all songs I've written, since the Starroom Boys, which split up in, I guess, 2002. Most of these songs are from the past 3 or 4 years.
And so right now you're kind of doing a limited release with it. Tell me what the thought process behind that.
Well, I've pressed up some CDs, mainly just to get the word out that this album exists. I'm not a record label or a record distributor or a record promoter, nor do I have the wherewithal to press vinyl for this album. But I do want people to know it's there, and hopefully, if I can get a little bit of attention for it, somebody will be interested in picking it up and doing those things that I can't do.
Well, that's really cool. Right now, we're going to play some of the record for you today, but it's also available for a limited time to stream at your website, which is Dave Marr Music, and that's Marr with 2 R's. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, DaveMarrMusic.com.
And there's a tab on there that has the name of the album. It's the bottom link, and the album's called We Were All in Love.
That's right.
So I want you to tell me about a couple of songs. Tell me about The Halls of '89. What's with that song?
So that's the first song on the album, and it's a song I wrote, I'm going to say about 4 years ago. And I think that I'd had a couple of friends or acquaintances who had each lost someone who at one time had been very, very close to them. And that song just came from trying to imagine what that must be like to be reminded of what your life was like in the context of a person who has not been a part of your life in a long time, and then to be reminded of that time in your life by the death of that person, if that's not too completely convoluted.
Well, let's listen to it and see how it sounds. I really like this song, so let's take a listen.
In your sorrow, have you opened up the drawers and the files of the papers she made you read before? Is there buried in the scribbling and the poems the only one you ever a favorite special sound that one day again would blossom from the ground. Anything can turn you from your way. Something that you never thought you'd say. Thought she had mainly figured out what the world back then was all about. Did you wonder, with her breath against your skin, that anyone might be alone again? Now she becomes a phantom of a sigh as you wander through the halls of 89.
Okay, well, that was The Halls of 89 by Dave Marr from his new album, We Were All in Love. And Dave, there's kind of a song that I wouldn't associate with your kind of songwriting just right off the bat. I think it's a really good song, and I think it's one of the better songs on the album, and I think it's also the most Jimi Hendrix inspired song.
Wow, I can't wait to know what it is.
Well, thank you. I'm getting.
You're welcome. What's the song?
Who's on first?
Yeah.
So tell me about Thank You. That seems to me to be a little bit of a departure in a good way.
Yeah. So yes, we are in fact talking about a song whose title is Thank You. What can I say about it?
Well, you said it was inspired by some films.
Yeah, it's the song is about the British filmmaker Terence Davies, who I think he's actually got a new movie coming out now. But he had in the 80s he made a movie called The Long Day Closes, I think. That at that time was really highly regarded, and it's it's sort of an abstract memory piece, just collecting all of these images and vignettes from this guy's childhood, shortly after World War II in, I think, London. and you're going to have to forgive me because it's been about 4 or 5 years since I've seen this movie. But I had just seen this. I'd watched this movie for the first time in a theater with a small crowd of people, and I was with a friend, and he and I both really liked it. And after the movie, we talked to the other people who had been there, who were also acquaintances, and some of them friends, and they were all just like, God, that's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. I was just like, what was wrong with it? I thought it was really moving, and they're like, it didn't make any sense. So I felt compelled to write a song sort of in defense of Terence Davies, because I think he's a wonderful artist. But yeah, so as far as what the song sounds like, I don't know. I have this amazing band. The people I play with, most of them have their own bands and write their own songs, but they're incredible players, and they're all really stretching out on that song.
Time and a place where you
so we know who you're talking about, tell me who you're playing with.
Well, the rhythm section is Alan Fleury on drums and Brandon Reynolds on bass. Then the two guitar players other than me are Don Chambers and Bo Bedingfield, both of whom are, amazing writers and solo artists in their own right. And then Thayer Serrano plays keyboards, who's also an incredible, solo musician. She's got a new album out too, and she's actually at this moment she's about to go on an East Coast tour with the Drive-By Truckers, who incidentally I just opened for.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about how was the Truckers show?
It was great. It was so much fun. It's been a long time since I've played for a crowd like that. I used to play a lot of shows with the Drive-By Truckers. Their first tour, outside of Georgia, I think, was with the Starroom Boys, and so we went up through Chicago and on east to New York City and then back down again. And along the way, we had some really chancy encounters with an early December blizzard and a vicious stomach bug that ravaged both of our bands for about a week and a half.
Wow. Well, you guys also shared a few beverages over those years, didn't you?
We may have. I can't remember.
Well, so for those who remember, the Starroom Boys is an unapologetic country band that really, to my mind, came as close to kind of creating a new version of wonderful old music. I think the song that kind of best harkens back to those days is called "If I Were Your Heart." I mean, it's the only one that feels like it would fit on a Starroom Boys album. And so, tell me about that.
Well, I haven't really felt moved to write country songs the last several years. I love country music, and I loved being in a country band. But even the Starroom Boys, I think, kind of stretched out, a bit afield of the sort of retro honky tonks that we started out doing. But with "If I Were Your Heart," I think I just felt like writing a real old-fashioned country song. But then when it was time for the band to learn it, I said, "Hey, let's play this song like it's on, like Flies on Sherbet or something, like make it sound like it's just completely falling apart." So I think it still sounds like a country song, but hopefully it's a little bit of an interesting version of that.
If I were your heart, I'd come to your mind. You know me much better, and all of my some way, I promise I'd save all pain. You might get no someday.
really good album. Tell me a little bit about the production. Who produced this?
That would be Jesse Mangum. We went out to. Jesse's an old friend who I've known him for years, and he opened a studio just outside of Athens called the Glow Studio. And I'd been talking to him for a long time about going out there, and really we decided, and I guess this is about almost a year and a half ago, that I would bring the band out there for a weekend, and we would record 3 or 4 or 5 songs and try to just make a demo that I could then, shop around to people and see if I could get some support to make a whole album. And we got so much done in that weekend, and it sounded so good that I just kind of looked at the band and said, why don't we just do the album like this? Let's make a whole record. So we did, and we were kind of in and out of there for a year with Jesse, and he's got a wonderful facility out there, just a great recording room, and he's a terrific engineer and has a great ear, and it was just a terrific match.
I also want to take a minute to talk about the Starroom Boys.
Cool.
Tell me a little bit what gave you the idea to start such a straight country, hardcore, no winks, no nudges, no irony band.
I had just moved to Athens from Chicago, and I started hanging around with some people who had played country music, and that was something that I had wanted to do when I lived in Chicago, and had never quite been able to pull it together. And we started a band, and I guess I had, as so many people do, in my late teens, I guess I'd started to hear Graham Parsons and a lot of that sort of West Coast hippie country that is such a fantastic gateway to to so many other more I suppose actual country artists, like Merle Haggard and Buck Owens and the Louvin Brothers, and just run down the track list for that Sleepless Nights album that the Flying Burrito Brothers did, and every artist that they cover on there, Boudleaux Bryant and all these amazing writers are, that was my introduction to those people. And then, I'd become friends with a guy named Doug Hollingsworth here in Athens, who's now in New York, and he's a bit older than me, and he'd amassed this amazing collection of country records that ended up at my house for some reason, and so I just got a wonderful education in 40s and 50s and 60s country music, which eventually evolved to include stuff from the 70s and even the 80s. And right in that time, Doug and I and some other friends, John McMahon, Bob Fernandez, and at that time Andrew Brown, decided we would go ahead and start a country band, and we began with some covers, and pretty soon both Doug and I were writing songs, and that it just sort of took off from there. Eventually Doug left the band, and he was replaced by first Jeff Passafian, who's in Columbus, Ohio, and then Philip McCardle, who was who was the guitar player on both of the Starring Boys records, and Johnny Neff joined the band to play pedal steel guitar, and he, was in the band for most of its existence too. A huge part of what that band sounded like, obviously.
Oh yeah, well, and of course I was kind of in a unique place because I moved to Athens in 1995, and
right.
ended up kind of seeing some of the earlier Starroom Boys shows, and might have, I can't remember at what point the red cassette came along, but I was there to see some of the early music, and then of course later on, after you guys released your first album, I ended up helping release your second album on my label. And
that's right.
And so any kind of moments that stick out and all that still are highlights?
I mean, I loved being able to put out both of those records. And thanks, Dale.
Well, you're welcome.
We recorded both of those with David Barbie, who's, just an incredibly huge presence here in Athens and really nationally at this point. I mean, he's recorded so many artists, and he just does such a great job. We had a great time in the studio making both of those, and I ended up being really happy with the way both of those records came out. I think
Sure.
they sound really different from one another. Especially in terms of the kinds of songs
Right.
that are on both of them, and I think the band really evolved from the first to the second record. But yeah, I mean, it's all about the music, Dale.
Well, thank you.
I'm sorry. Was that patronizing or condescending?
No, I think
I
think that may be the best moment in the interview. I do appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a lot going on, but I wanted to share some of your music with my audience and remind anyone that if anyone's out there looking for records to acquire or anything like that, I mean, this would be a good one to put on your list, because I think it's a really solid, great record and has some excellent songs on it.
Thanks a lot, Dale. I'm glad you like it.
All right.
Thanks for helping spread the word.
All right. Well, thank you, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay. Take care, Dale.
Well, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Dave Marr. Please stop by DaveMarrMusic.com, where you can hear all of the albums streaming for a limited time. Please go to DaleWileyShow.net. There's links to this show and the artists and other information there. Buy some books, throw some money. Copyright 2016.